guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be reviewing the first 4 Nightmare on Elm Streets. I'm going to go ahead and say there's probably going to be spoilers in this, so if you haven't seen the movies, I wouldn't watch this, or if you don't care about spoilers, then you can go ahead and watch it. These are old movies, so I would assume you've seen them. I just wanted to talk about them since it's Halloween, and I just watched them for the first time in years. So first of all, I want to say, rest in peace, Wes Craven. It's really weird because when Robin Williams died, I still feel like maybe I'm in shock from it. I don't believe he's gone. But whenever Wes Craven died, I shed a couple of tears. I think I like a lot of his work. You know, he discovered Johnny Depp, and just from all the documentaries and stuff that I've seen, he just seems like such a sweet, cool guy. But anyways, obviously this movie was written and directed by Wes Craven. The producer of this movie, Bob something, I think his name was, him and Wes Craven put everything they had into this movie. I think Bob even put his house up for mortgage. I mean, they invested everything into this movie. It was like a hit or miss. They were going to lose everything. They shot it in 24 days. Wes Craven actually signed the rights over to the producer during the first movie because he didn't see this thing being a series. This was also Johnny Depp's first movie, and a couple interesting facts. Wes Craven, I don't know if he taught or went to a school in Dallas, and Elm Street was based on a street in downtown Dallas, and I'm from Dallas. And I remember one time as a teenager, I was going to a friend's house, and on the way home that night, I got lost in downtown Dallas and ended up on Elm Street. And of course I thought of Freddy Krueger, and I was like, oh no, I gotta get off the street. But it's really crazy that I just found out that's actually the street it was based on. And where Wes Craven got the idea for this was, I think it was in Japan. There was a kid that was having these terrible nightmares and was refusing to go to sleep. He kept telling his parents, I'm going to die if I go to sleep. And he went to sleep one night and he actually died. And they found, a coffee pot in his room. I don't know the entire story. I just know that's where Wes Craven got the idea. And the very first Nightmare on Elm Street, she kept the coffee pot in her bedroom. So I just thought that was neat. So anyways, let's talk about the very first Friday the 13th. Have I been saying Friday the 13th this whole time? So let's talk about the first Nightmare on Elm Street. It's about a group of teenagers that are all having nightmares. It's the same guy in all their dreams. They're scared to go to sleep. When the first girl dies, she's in the room with her boyfriend. She's getting killed all up and down the wall, and the boyfriend gets blamed for it. He gets put in jail. Nancy is the main girl. She's trying to tell everybody, he didn't do it. There's a guy, that's in our dreams that's trying to get us. Of course, nobody believes her. Until her mom takes her to kind of a psych ward thing, and they make her go to sleep. And in her nightmares, she actually grabs Freddy's hat and comes out with the hat. And then her mom sees the hat, and she's like, oh my God, I have to tell you something. Her mom takes her in the basement and shows her, because Freddy only has one claw. She shows her, the other glove with the claws on it, and tells her that Freddy was a guy. She doesn't use the word molested because apparently whenever they made this movie, there was a big thing going on in the media about child molestation. Freddy Krueger was supposed to be a child molester and murderer, but they kind of left that to your imagination. So the mom tells Nancy, this guy did all this stuff to these kids and we burned him at the stake. Well, I don't know if they burned him at the stake, but they freaking burned him, whatever. I'm gonna stop describing the entire movie now and just tell you what I thought of it. Now, this is a classic, and it was, the first of the Freddy Kruegers. I don't think I am honored enough to critique it or judge it, but I'm going to. What I like about this movie is it's just a classic. You can watch it every year, around Halloween time. It's the first one. It's Johnny Depp's first movie. It's just a classic. Now, what I didn't like about it was the end made no freaking sense to me whatsoever. So, and I watched on Netflix, there's a whole series. It's 4 hours long. I haven't finished watching all of it, but it's called, I forgot what it's called, but you can just look up Freddy Krueger on Netflix and it'll come up. It's 4 hours long. It's a documentary. It has Wes Craven and everybody who was in it, everybody who produced it and directed it and did the special effects. I love Robert Englund. All the ones that I've watched so far of the movies, Robert Englund loved Freddy Krueger. He wouldn't let anybody else play that character, even though Wes Craven didn't come back in the second one. He put so much into that character, no matter how shitty the movie was, he played it to a T. So the end of the movie made no sense whatsoever. So she gets Freddy Krueger out of her dream, brings him into real life, catches him on fire. He goes up to the bedroom, kills her mother. It's a really weird scene. Her mom just kind of sinks into the bed. My mind can't wrap around what the hell this meant. And then she is like, you have no power here. Like, I'm not scared of you. And then he just disappears. And you think, oh wow, you're just not scared of him, he disappears. That my mind can wrap around. But then the ending scene is she walks outside, it's sunny, her mom's there, Johnny Depp and all her friends are back, and they come and pick her up. She gets in the car, and then the top falls down, and it has Freddy's stripes on it, and the car takes off, and you just imagine that it kills him. And actually, come to find out, Wes Craven wanted it to end after Freddy disappeared, and she said, you have no power over me. But Bob, the producer, wanted like a hooker at the end. A hooker. He wanted a hook at the end that made you want to come back because he wanted it to be a series. Wes Craven didn't. So let's go into part 2, shall we? Wes Craven had nothing to do with this one. It's called Freddy's Revenge. So part 2 is about a boy named Jesse who moves into the house that Nancy lived in the first one. And in this one, Freddy's trying to make Jesse like kill for him, and he's trying to come through Jesse in his dreams. So instead of a woman being the heroine in a horror flick, in this one the boy is. This is also, it says it's one of the top gayest horror films of all time. I'm not saying that, offensively or anything. They just said, and even the writer said, like subtextually, I don't know if that's a word, but he said in subtext, he wrote it to be gay. Because like in his closet there's a game called Probe. Like the way his coach dies in it, there's like balls flying at him, and then he gets whipped on the butt with a towel. And whenever his girlfriend tries to like make out with him and do stuff with him, he turns her down. And then at the end she actually rescues him. And so I guess like whenever I heard her talk about it, she's like, I guess we were the Will and Grace of horror films. Now what I liked about part 2 was the acting in this movie was amazing. Like Jesse, the main character, he was on it. Like, he was dramatic. I think he cried. Like, he was a really, really, really good actor. I kind of got into the story. I liked that a little bit. But then again, at the end, it didn't make any sense. And it went against, like, all Nightmare on Elm Streets. Because the whole purpose of Freddy Krueger is that he's in your dreams. And in this one, he comes out at a pool party, and it just kills that whole, creepy dream vibe. I don't know. It kind of broke all the rules. Like, he shouldn't be out in the real world. Because then he's not scary. He's not, in your mind and just, I don't know how to explain it, but it just kind of killed all the rules. And at the end, it's kind of the same thing. It's like we kill him with fire, we win, he loses, and then we're in a bus, we're all happy, all our friends are alive, and then he takes over the bus. It just doesn't make sense in my mind. Alright, let's talk about part 3. Part 3 is called Dream Warriors. Warriors? Whatever. And this is probably my favorite out of the entire, well, I haven't watched the entire series yet, but please don't make me. I'll do 5 through 8 next year. But I think this one's probably the best one. This movie was Patricia Arquette's first movie. And this is kind of off topic, but I think this is really cool just because if you've watched Johnny Depp's documentaries, he moved to Los Angeles to make his band really big. And that didn't happen. He was like almost living on the streets. I think he was living on the streets. He was like at a sandwich shop and he met Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage let him live with him, and then Johnny Depp's first movie was Nightmare on Elm Street, long story short. Well, Nicolas Cage's wife or girlfriend was Patricia Arquette, and the third Nightmare on Elm Street is Patricia Arquette's first movie. So, just interesting fact of my useless information that's in my head. So this movie starts off with Patricia Arquette. She has a nightmare about Freddy. He makes her cut her wrist. Her mom walks in on her, and her mom makes her go to a psych ward where there's a bunch of other teenagers that have tried to commit suicide. One won't speak anymore. One burns cigarettes on her arm, and one's a drug addict. They all have different problems. And Nancy from the first one comes back, which I don't know how. Again, this all doesn't make sense to me because at the end of the very first one, the car shuts down and kills them, but Nancy's alive, and now she is a therapist, or a psychiatrist for, people with bad dreams or whatever. So Nancy comes to work there, she's talking to all the kids, they're telling her about the nightmares. She figures out they're the last of the Elm Street kids, and Freddy's trying to get to all of them. Now, whenever I watched this movie, I was like, oh my god, this is awesome CGI. I guess this is where CGI started coming into play. But no, CGI did not exist then, and everything that was made in that movie, like there's a scene where Freddy comes to life on the TV and pulls this girl into the TV, and I mean, that's all made by people. Like, they put a lot of work and effort into all, like, the special, I don't even know if they're called special effects, all the, you know, imagery or whatever you want to call it in the movie. But they did really well. And so it's called Dream Warriors. And in their dreams, they figure out that they all have a special power. So whenever they go into their dreams, they all use their special powers against Freddy. They're trying to figure out how to kill Freddy. Nancy's dad from the first one, I think he was like head of the police department. I don't know what he was, but in this one he's lowered down to security guard. He's kind of losing it because he hates what he's done to his daughter. I don't know, he's losing it. But they get him involved. They're trying to solve how to kill Freddy. The other doctor that's working with Nancy keeps having this woman that's kind of a nun come to him. Her name is Amanda. And telling him all these things about how Freddy was born. That there was a woman that was in a psych ward that was raped by like 100 crazy men, and that's where Freddy came from in this whole story, and that his bones need to be put to rest. So as you figure, at the end of the movie, we figure out how to put his bones to rest. And Wes Craven did help write a lot of this, so that's why it's a good movie. Wes Craven came back. I'm not going to give any spoilers as to how this one ended because I feel like I want you to watch the first and the third one at least. If you want to watch any of the Freddy Kruegers, I suggest highly the first and the third one because they're the best. So let's talk about number 4. Jesus take the wheel with number 4 because oh my gosh, I couldn't even get into it. First of all, the girl that's played by Patricia Arquette is no longer played by Patricia Arquette. And a little behind the scenes, Patricia Arquette, that was her first time acting, like I said, and there was one scene where she was there all day till like 4 a.m. waiting to do her scene, and the director was so mean to her that like she didn't want to come back for the 4th one. So we have this new girl that comes back that, you know, we can't relate to her because it's not Patricia freaking Arquette, and then some of the kids that were in the 3rd one are back as well. So apparently whenever part 4 was done, all the writers in Hollywood were on strike. So the guy that actually directed this, I think he was Scandinavian or something, but so he just kind of threw a whole bunch of scenes together. He kills off all the characters from the 3rd one in like the first 10 minutes of the 4th one, and how Freddy Krueger comes back to life. Does anybody care to guess how Freddy Krueger comes back to life? I mean, isn't it obvious? A dog pees on him and the bones come back to life. So this one I couldn't get into it, and I feel like there was a bunch of corny lines. Robert Englund, like I said, he plays Freddy Krueger to a T. He loves him, and he says funny things, but this one it was just like too much. It was too corny, wasn't scary. There was a few cool scenes, but it was just ridiculous. I couldn't get into it, and that's all I want to talk about it. So I hope you enjoyed me talking about all these. Like I said, there's a documentary on Netflix if you care to watch it. It's 4 hours long. I haven't finished it yet, but it will tell you a lot of the, you know, neat behind the scenes stuff, and you get to see Wes Craven again. But I'm going to go ahead and show you how many bottles I gave each one. So number 1, I gave 5 bottles. I feel like it was a classic. It was the first of its kind. Freddy Krueger is a legend. And, you know, in memory of Wes Craven, I feel like just out of respect, it gets 5 bottles. Number 2, I give 2 bottles. Like I said, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't fantastic. So 2 bottles is what I give it. You can watch it if you want. If you won't, am I a hick? Number 3, I gave 4 bottles. I think that was my favorite out of all of them. Of course, you love the first one, but the 3rd one was good. Just everybody comes back, like the CGI, not CGI, whatever the hell it's called, is like amped up. It was really good and entertaining. So 4 bottles. And then number 4, none. That movie, I couldn't, no. Just, no. Can't give it any bottles. It wasn't good at all. I also wanted to mention I made 2 other channels, one for vlogs and then one for me to do like everything else that I want to do, like challenges and stories and everything like that. I'll have them linked in the description below. I hope you will subscribe, and I will see you later.